Hey, welcome everyone to Boundless Love, Cafecito for Two. I am Christina Jadena, one of the dynamic duo, and I am on my own today. Javi's actually here in spirit. He's just in the sort of backdrop. He's our producer today, but he's not sharing the spotlight. And we're modeling, I think, with the best of intentions of individuating from each other, right? Doing our own thing, but we're still connected. And so it's kind of cool to like have that ability sometimes with your spouse or your partner to take the reign and do your own thing, but you're still in unity and you're still in partnership, and just feels really good and really healthy. He had his spiritual fatherhood show, which was amazing. If you missed it, last Friday, beautiful interview, very inspiring about fathers rising to their spiritual presence and power in their family lives. And I highly recommend you check that out on our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is on Boundless Love. You can like us and we encourage you to subscribe. And today we have another amazing guest. I'm so excited to talk about today one of my most favorite topics. We have Jessie, Giunta, Rafeh, who's an MFT and therapist and expert around really this crucial transition that we can all, I think, at some level either relate to, or we can see people in our lives that are going through it or preparing their own children for it. This life launch, right? This shift or bridge from adolescence to adulthood. And so I just want to welcome Jessie. I'm going to let her do her own bio. She's going to share a little bit of her pearls of wisdom and her story, but she has an awesome book. And I'm just so excited to have you on, Jessie. So welcome. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. There's nothing more that I like talking about than relationships. It's my favorite topic. Yes. And I guess a little background on me is that I struggled really hard as a teenager. And I went to a number of therapists that did not know how to help me. But then I found someone who did, who got my family involved, who really focused on the relationship that I had with my parents and empowered me to see the best version of me. And through that, I decided not only do I feel better, but I'm going after a career in this. I'm going to write a book to help other people be able to do this. And that's how I got to be where I am now.
That's so awesome. As a fellow social worker, I can deeply relate on many levels. There's nothing better than finding the right therapist. It's a gift of a lifetime. And like any profession, I think it's really important for folks to know, right? Like it does take a few tries sometimes. Like it's not this amazing magical, right, formula where you just find that person and that's it. Like, and so that's just so amazing that you're able to really, I think, share that experience for people, because I think it can be really discouraging sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, I think sometimes people look at finding a therapist like finding a regular medical doctor, so they don't worry so much about the personality. But the truth is, like, your therapist is for your emotional health, so there has to be some sort of emotional synchronicity there where you feel connected, and number one, like that person gets you. So I say search around until you find that, and sometimes it takes a few tries.
Right. Awesome. So Jessie, tell us a little bit about your book and your journey. I mean, I think it's so awesome that you have this sense of mission and vision. What is the main goal of Lifelong? Like who is it speaking to, and how can they benefit from reading it?
So it is to my favorite group of people to work with, which are the young adults, the people in their 20s, early 30s. And it's called Life Launch because it's about actually trying to launch your life in every aspect, from your emotional health to your relationships to your physical health and to your goals, like your career and your spirituality and all that. And I use stories from my own life as well as the stories of my clients to kind of explain the concepts in there, and in order to help people to be able to execute them. And my idea was I wanted, because in my office, I only get to help so many people. There's only so many hours in the week. So how amazing would it be if you could have a guide that you go home and it's walk yourself through your own therapeutic journey and process and evolution. And so that's what it is. And it has assignments and tips in every chapter.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize, and I know I said this before we went on the air, I am so impressed with your website, and I invite the audience to check it out. It's so rich with resources, and Jessie's just so generous in terms of offering all these tools to really act upon, because I don't know, sometimes it's like awesome to read a great book, but if you don't feel like you have a next step or an action plan or a to-do list, we really, really encourage you to check it out. So in any case, that's so cool that you really have incorporated all that. And it's a testimony to your commitment for people to like be self-empowered, right? Because it's not just about, going to someone, an expert for all the answers. It's also about cultivating your own work, right? And understanding of oneself. I love what you were saying earlier about self-love is like the barometer of, I guess, health in terms of determining your relationships as you go into young adulthood, right?
Yes, you were kind of asking me, we were talking about how do you know you're ready for a serious romantic relationship? How do you know you're ready to take it to the next level? And what I always tell my clients and my people is it's really, where are you at with you? Because if you're feeling like you understand yourself, you're emotionally aware, you feel love for yourself, and you're going into it as a whole and complete person as you are. You're excited about your life with or without a partner. You feel fulfilled. You just want someone to make it a little bit better, the icing on the cake, the cherry on top, then you're going to go, your odds of success are much, much higher because you have a lot more to give, because you're already, when we're fulfilled, then the more we're fulfilled inside, the more resources we have to give out. And also you can come into the relationship offering a lot of acceptance and unconditional love. And I think unconditional love is the most powerful, transformative thing we can give somebody, but we can't give it if we don't have it to give to ourselves first.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's so powerful, because we were also discussing earlier about sort of the countercultural, or, the setup we may get from socialized, influence in our lives, or, we are really confused sometimes about our expectations of romantic love and intimacy and marriage or long-term commitment, and feeling like, okay, I made it, like I found my person. But that's actually when some of this, I always feel like that's when the rubber meets the road in terms of your own self-love. Like it's so key, like you said, to do that work and to have that emotional awareness. But it's so important because it's going to be challenged when you really do have to forgive, right? Or you really do have to offer mercy, or for, whatever it is, and be that sort of person who's going to sacrifice for the benefit of the other in the relationship.
1,000%. I think a process that unconsciously happens a lot is we meet this person, we get really, oh my gosh, I met the love of my life, it's so freaking excited, and then we live on that cloud for a while, and then normal life kicks in, the high of it wears off. But now we've kind of programmed ourselves, in order to feel happy, I'm happy when this person makes me happy. And so then we stop working so hard to make ourselves happy, and more expectations go on our partner to fulfill us and lift us up and take care of us and comfort our insecurities, all of that. And the more pressure the other person, at first maybe they can do it, they're like, yeah, you're beautiful, yeah, I believe in you. And then you're getting if you don't start doing it yourself, it gets kind of exhausting, because the person they fell in love with was this confident person that brought their own energy and spark and passion and desire. So we have to, the most successful relationships, in my opinion, keep that part going on an individual level until you're both lifting each other up instead of sinking and then kind of dragging the other person down with you.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, it seems really simple, but it's actually very complicated, right? Like, are living it consistently, because I feel like for me personally, and I hope a lot of people out there can relate, it's like when I start getting resentful or crabby or moody or whatnot, a lot of that usually stems from the root cause is because I haven't taken a break, I haven't rested enough, I haven't exercised. And so without that self-care, right, or love or attention, right, awareness, what happens is I end up projecting it outward and, kind of basically blaming others. And the first person for a lot of us in the line of fire is our spouse or our partner.
Yes, 1,000%. I always go like, Mark is my husband, and I love him with all my heart. But when I start to feel myself wanting to pick at him or tell him what he's doing wrong, I'm like, wait a minute, because most of the time I feel a lot of love and excitement for this guy. So that must be a signal that, just like you're saying, I'm needs not getting met. And what am I going to do first? I'm going to check in with myself and see, what do I need? Do I need a girl day? Do I need some more exercise? Do I need to meditate? Do I need to change my diet? Like, what do I need? And normally, as I do that, guess what? Like, he feels my energy going back up. He becomes more attracted to me. He moves in to take care of me without me ever having said I was going into a negative place to begin with.
Right. It is. It's all related, right? It's very much intertwined.
Yes.
So speaking of, launching and moving, what do you see in terms of like challenge areas or ways, just kind of heads up for young adults, like when they're moving into this healthy, like how you want to become, relationship ready? Are there certain things that they should be aware of, like going into dating or getting, before they head into relationship? Because what I was sharing earlier is sometimes we can really fall in love with the idea of being in love, like you had mentioned, or this expectation or image of what marriage is like. But then after the marriage, I mean, especially for us working in pre-marriage, a lot of times the marriage that day is this huge focal point, right? And then it's like, oh, it's over, right? Like now we have the rest of our lives together.
Yes.
So, and that could be like sometimes a little scary or threatening or whatever, shocking, So I'm curious about your thoughts around how do we set ourselves up in some ways to have healthy expectations versus ones that maybe are just not realistic?
Yeah, so this is a great question. So the first thing I'm going to say is you're going to take a self-inventory. So I'm going to go back a step. You're going to go, what are all the things that I have to offer a partner? And you're going to start to feel good about those things. Then you're going to make another list that's, what are all the things that might be a little bit challenging for my partner? What could I improve upon? And then you're going to start working that list. And the reason how this ties into what the expectations are for the other person is, are they a human like you? You want a pretty good balance to what you have to give, basically. So when you're looking for someone, I say 80% of the time, like when people are in the first year and they're fighting and they're crying all the time, I'm like, something is wrong. Either you picked the wrong person,
right,
or you have more work to do on yourself to be able to connect,
Yeah.
So you should really be happy at least 80% of the time and excited about who they are and feeling that coming back. So many females come to me and are like, well, he did this and then he didn't call and then he did that. And I always say, when someone likes you, it's really freaking clear.
Yes, super obvious.
It's not some puzzle to unlock. The movies have taught us, like, you're going to go and then you're going to not be sure and then you're going to get chased. And this is given a really crappy message, because when someone's into you, it's really obvious they're into you, and there should be no doubts. And if you don't have that,
like blaring sign.
Yes. Yes.
I remember so clearly when I was single, there was a book, and I don't know if you remember it, but it was something like "He's Not That Into You."
Yes.
And I think they made it a movie eventually, but it was basically this concept of, if a guy is into you or likes you or is attracted to you, he will pursue you. He will make it known. His behavior will match his interests. And I think it's really important, like you said, you shouldn't be in this like head trip, like guessing game, just stressing out about, are they going to text me back? Are they going to like respond to me? Are they, because that's clearly, that should be a no-brainer, right? Especially like you're saying in that first year.
Yes. It should be a no-brainer that they're into you, and it should be a no-brainer that it's easy and fun to spend time with you, with them. Like you're fulfilled by it. If you don't got those two things, then it's time to look at you or them, or like you're either not ready or you picked the wrong person. Either way.
And I love what you said about, this clear thing around like if you're crying all the time or if you're sad, and then it's the 80% limit. I think that's really helpful for people to have a threshold, right? And to be like, okay, let me just tally up, like what is my percentage with this person? And the other thing too is that this idea of maybe I'm not emotionally ready, right? Like maybe, it is me, and that perhaps I need to nurture myself, because what I always realize too, and this happens, I think it's really important when people do get nervous going into marriage, and we often talk about this in our retreats around getting cold feet and whatnot, is that it's a choice. My husband always says, I make a choice to marry you every day. Like this is an active choice. And so you want to feel like you're not doing anything unconsciously, and you're just kind of like blowing stuff off because you want that end game of a relationship, right?
Yes, 1,000%. Like you were saying how sometimes people you work with get scared to ask the uncomfortable questions. And me too, people talk about that to me too all the time. And I think, what's that a sign of? That's a sign that I'm not confident enough to take care of myself to lose this, because you're not losing anything if the thing isn't right. If this person isn't right for you, it's better to know right now, not after you. We don't need to like trick this person and manipulate ourselves into this more attractive being so that they commit to us and then find out that our values don't align. Like, let's know now. And so that's a sign of readiness too. How comfortable are you to ask the uncomfortable questions?
Yeah. And I think there's such reward and fruit in that, right? Such wisdom, because when you can grow into taking those risks, especially I think, in that, even in that first year, you're setting up the foundation, right, of your relationship. You're now I'm going to use like a Dr. Philism, right? The whole teaching people how to treat you, right? Or just setting up these patterns of expectation.
Yes.
So you can like lay it out and put that risk out. I think it'll come back to you tenfold, because at some level, and that is a leap of faith, and I know it's scary and it takes courage, but I would think, like you said, you would really get a clear answer by doing that, right?
Yes, and no answer is an answer, or a vague answer is an answer, or how you feel in the answer is an answer. So there's the actual words, and then there's all the subtext around it. That's good to pay attention to. Can the person you're with have emotional conversations? Can they hear what you feel about things? Do you feel heard? So going back to the very beginning, what you're looking for in your therapist on a much deeper level, you're looking for that in your partner, because they're going to be your number one even though I'm promoting taking care of yourself first, but also your partner is going to be your number one emotional support in life, and the person you're going to spend the most time with. So it should be really feel good to be with them, and like you can get your needs met.
Yeah. No, and this brings me to like what we were talking about earlier as well of like we are in this, I think you used the phrase which is beautiful, this emotional precipice, right, of change in terms of relationships and gender roles and roles within relationships and really being able to access more emotional intelligence, more emotional intimacy, more communication in our relationships and like you said the bars being raised and I think it's so funny too. I mean, funny, not funny, right? Like how the messages, like, you know, because even my daughters who are 10 and 13, we have real full on conversations about the romantic narrative and
Mhm.
like taking it apart. And it's not necessarily about finding, you know, someone to fix you or complete you. And they pick it up on their own, you know? So just being able to be really discerning, I think, and savvy around some of these mixed messages. I don't know what you think, but I just think that is so important.
Yes, because I think I was saying this like in the past you just picked someone who was good enough, and the key to having a successful relationship was you stuck with them for 50 years no matter what, no matter how close you felt or distant or. And now we're in this age where I love watching the younger people go like, I don't know if I want to have kids. I don't know if I want to get married. I don't need my guy to be like all masculine, like fixing. I want him to talk about his feelings too. So we're in the age of choice now. Like you get to really think about what would be fulfilling for your life and what you want, and that, you know, opens the door to having really deep emotional fulfilling relationships. But I also like we're really new at this, so we don't really know how to do it yet. And I think that's kind of scary because we're like, I see like a lot of women, for example, they confuse assertiveness with anger. They think
Mm.
going, I'm not going to put up with this, and you can't do that. And by giving out orders and by being aggressive, that's the way that they're going to become equal to men and have equal rights. But I think no one wants to be lectured or yelled at or controlled. So I think really the goal there is to go, you know, what would be really meaningful to me is to share in the household chores or to do our finances this way, but to have conversations where the other person gets to contribute and you're negotiating and compromising together and both listening to each other and being open to the idea that the other person could listen and meet you where you're at. And if they can't, then that's maybe a sign that they're not the one,
Yeah.
basically.
No, I think that's such a fascinating point is that, like you said, this confusion between aggression and assertiveness, because that is like, that's a big leap, I think, you know, right? For a lot of women in relationships to make of like, okay, I'm enough. I love myself. I don't need to like have a partner to be valued or worthy. And so, they don't need to necessarily overcompensate like or push back as much, you know what I mean? And so
Yes.
it just seems like it's a slippery slope, right? And having to find that right like measure or tempo around, okay, I need to assert myself here, but that doesn't mean that I like blow up or like blame someone for it, right?
Yes. Yes. It's different people have said it. I'm going blank on who I heard it from last, but like it's power versus force. If you feel like you have to
Mm.
force something into place, well, that's probably not right. But using your own, like if someone really loves you, they're going to really listen to you. If you're
Right.
communicating with them with love and respect and with the idea that they're going to hear you back. If we go in with faith that that's going to happen, then that's much more likely to happen than if we go in already assuming they're never going to get us or hear us.
Yeah, and that's what's so key, right? About healing yourself, or if you have childhood wounds or any other, you know, pain. I mean, we all have our own past that we need to reconcile, but I think it's so important to be aware of whatever's triggering you, right? And these things can come up. I know in my husband's and my relationship, we definitely did so much work because the closer we became, the more triggered we'd get in some point,
Yes.
and learning how to work through that and understand, and like you said, keep the faith, because I think sometimes, again, that goes against this expectation of what a good marriage is or what a good relationship is, which is kind of, I mean, at least I was grown up with a sense of like, well, it's peaceful. There's no one ever fights, or it's really, conflict free, or everyone's happy. And that's not necessarily the truth, right?
No, that's such a good point to bring up, because I always say we're going in, the two most complicated relationships in our life are the ones with our parents and the ones with our spouse. So, because you're going in, basically your parents, you were dependent on them to meet your needs. And so, and you grew, and so, but they weren't perfect. So, because no human being is.
Right.
So that put a lot of, that's had a lot of pressure, that relationship. And whatever didn't get resolved there then gets carried into the romantic one. We're unconsciously looking to fill those needs. You ever heard like therapists love to go like, women are attracted to marrying someone like their father, women and men are attracted because Mark has a ton of qualities like my dad. And in the best case scenario, which is him, he's taking all that stuff and the stuff my dad wasn't able to fully evolve. Right. He's the next better version. So I get to heal some of my childhood by working through things with him. But I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't know going into the relationship that I'm wearing the lens of my childhood. Mm. So I'm going to see him through that lens. I'm going to be, a great example is when we were first together, he's Lebanese. They have traditional gender roles, and he's not so good at doing the dishes, or he wasn't 10 years ago. And he didn't offer to do the dishes, and I'm turning into my mother, who was a feminist. My mom was mad at my dad my whole life for not doing his equal share. So I'm like, who do he think he is? Like, he thinks I'm going to be some little woman in the kitchen, and I'm catastrophizing, and I'm angry, and I'm all upset, but I knew not to go express that to him. I went and walked myself around the block, and was like, okay, Jessie, like, this is from your childhood. That doesn't mean it has to play out here. All you need to do is find your center and communicate. And guess what? When I did, he was like, oh no, I just didn't think, because I never had to do it in my house, I didn't think to offer. You want me to do the dishes? That's not a problem, But I could have made it a big dramatic ordeal had I not known what glasses I was wearing. And we're all wearing the glasses of our childhood.
And I have to commend you, because doing the dishes is an excellent example. Because that's also been a big like milestone for me, because I fall into my family pattern just being the martyr. Like I'm just gonna, you know what I mean? Like I'm just gonna silently suffer, you know what I mean, or whatever. And now my daughters help me, and sometimes my husband will be like, you need to let them do the dishes, because I even can fall into sabotaging my own you know what I'm saying? So it's like, whoa, stop this script, like this is like, I need to make sure that I can receive help. I don't have to play that story out. Oh my gosh, Jessie, I could talk to you forever. This is so awesome. I guess I just say the last question as we're going to wrap it up. Do you feel, I'm just curious, like, when we talk about generations and like millennial versus Gen Z versus like Gen X, like, do you feel hopeful around, or like, what are your thoughts around different generations, up and coming young adults, and sort of their circumstances and challenges? Do you have any specific advice or just thoughts around these different generations? Because I feel like a lot of times the younger generations lead the way. And I'm always fascinated. And I feel like you're such a great person to connect with this around how do these generations impact us and how we can learn from them.
Great. So I'm not going to be good at delineating which generation is which, but I can answer it this way. That like people, I'm 39, so people in their, let's say like 30s now, we were kind of, not my parents because I had like old school parents, but for the rest of them, like it was like this overcorrection of emotional support. So before their parents were like, we don't care what you feel, just get it done. And so these parents were like, oh, that was awful. I didn't feel heard or listened to. So how are you feeling? Are you okay? You know, it's like the participation trophy, which then created like more sensitive, in touch people, but people who had difficulty going after their goals and executing on their plans because their hands were held too much and their parents didn't let them like go out and try and fail and feel the negative stuff.
Right.
The other people, I think they're more empowered. It's already correcting to them being more empowered to getting stuff done. And like when I looked at what those kids did around the shootings in schools and gun control, and just that they organized themselves in that way, and we're like, we're not going to wait for the adults to get on top of this. We're going to speak up. So I see this next young group here under 25-ish going like, if I want to make something happen, it has to come from me. And they're valuing community more, they're valuing having a purpose more, they're valuing connection. The only thing that's going to be a little tricky is the part I kind of alluded to in raising the bar for relationships, is that they all get that they can make a difference, they could control their emotional destiny, and they could think positively. But it's so big and they don't know quite how to do it that they're getting anxious and depressed because they're putting their expectations to get so far so fast instead of, and I think social media is a part of that.
Yes.
So we're seeing like, well, so-and-so already did it at 22 or whatever. And so I'm trying to help everyone like take a step back, baby step it down, and just go like, it's gonna be a long life. Look, our medicine, it's we're all gonna live past 100. You've got 80 years to go. Take your time. Like,
pace yourself.
Pace yourself, because there's lots of times to accomplish lots of different things, and you don't have to get there before 25. You just got to start building a little bit by a little bit.
Right. Yeah. It's so much like that accumulated interest, right? You save a little bit, use that compound interest piece. It's like carries out to life, right? You sometimes, and that's the cool, I mean, I'm 48. So, you know, I feel like, oh, some of those good decisions are really bearing fruit. You know what I mean? Like that's the bonus of like sticking around, because if you do make thoughtful choices, then you're like, which may have not felt that exciting at the time, right? But like, you're like, oh, maybe that, you know, this is actually some progress in this direction. So
me too. My friends make so much fun of me. Like, oh, Jessie, you're going to baby step over here and over there. Because I'm just like, I'm just going to dip my toe in over here and I'm going to write one blog over here. But guess what? In the last 10 years, that accumulated to a book, to a successful career, to a husband I love. You know, like I have everything I've ever wanted in life, and it was by going 1 centimeter at a time, because I was started as an awkward introvert who was scared to put myself out there. So
it worked out the best, right? That's so awesome, so inspiring. I love it. I love it. So where can people find you, Jessie? Is the website the best place?
I think the website is the best because you can see where to buy the book, my blog. I have some podcast episodes, and everything funnels out from there.
Okay. And the address is?
Jessie-Giunta-Rafeh.com.
Got it. And we will put that, folks, in the notes. So you'll have hyperlinks to all that, as well as specific links to her blog and to her book. So I encourage you all to check it out. Well, thank you so much, Jessie. I just started your book. I need to finish it, but I definitely am revved up to do it now. So I'm so excited.
Awesome. Thank you. This was so fun to be here, and I can't wait to hear what you think.
Absolutely. Take care and have fun, everyone. keep watching, and we will see you next week for sure. And we look forward to you always keeping the faith and keeping boundless love alive. Take good care, guys. God bless. Have a great